Who were you before you learned what will be rewarded? Let's take a look at this. It's a deep phrase because it basically cuts down to the core of our existence. Every one of us started off fresh, never had any preconceptions about the ego, nothing like that. And then one day we started acting. You started acting. I started acting. And that led us to a situation where we are today, is where we learn to act in order to be rewarded for something. For either the future that we want or the mistakes that we want to avoid. We didn't want to be punished. We wanted to be praised. All of the regular stuff. But the thing is, we were somebody before that time. You were somebody before that time, and I was somebody before that time. So, what were you? And that's not a very easy question to answer because we tend to not enjoy the hard questions. Because if you enjoy the hard questions, and if you are ready to answer this, then at one point in time, you'll have to admit to yourself that before that time, you would not have stood for something and you would have not accepted something. Now, that is assuming, of course, you had the voice inside of you at that time. But nevertheless, we're doing a Celtic Cross. Again, the question is, who were you before you learned, plainly saying that you have to be somebody else in order to be rewarded? And it's interesting. It's already taking shape. I'm going to do the whole spread, and then we're going to talk through every single card. And if we need to, we're going to go down deeper. And as the sun sets on today, we're going to answer that question together. So you and I. And I'm going to talk to you because you're essentially looking in the mirror, and these cards are dedicated to every single person who was able to find that video and is ready to answer that question for themselves. Oh, look at this. This card wants out. Beautiful. So that's the near futures. Now, who are you? How do you feel? What do you feel about yourself? There we go. Let's see. Make sure this all of these cards fit. The people and the situations around you. What are they like? That was the Nine of Cups that represents you, which is fantastic. What's around you? Come on, let's see it. Let's see the environment around you. Focus on the next 30 days. Focus on the time frame until the end of September. I think this is what it wants to do. Okay, what are your hopes and fears? Whoa, that was very quick. And we have 2 cards, right? Okay, we'll accept 2 cards. High Priestess and 2 of Wands. And what is the final result or the most likely outcome? Look at that. The 3 of Pentacles. What's at the bottom of the deck? At the bottom of the deck, this is a serious question, and we have serious cards because we have major arcana at the bottom of the deck. So again, that's the situation where we all begin with. You begin with. So you begin with a situation of full abundance and the ability to lean over the edge and not be afraid and have something very important in your hand. And then you set that forward and you begin to think of yourself, well, what can I be and what can that do for me? And that places you in a position where you begin to contemplate, well, if that were to happen, how would I feel? And you thought to yourself, well, if only I can make that work, the card of the Strength would appear and I would feel amazing. You know what? We all go through the same thing. So what is this situation about? The situation is about basically lies. Truthfully, in every growth situation, you're telling yourself a lot of lies. And you do that unconsciously. You want to play the victim. A lot of people take the stance, and you take the stance of being a victim because it's easy. When you take the stance of being a victim, you have the ability to blame somebody for it. Like, look, they did something. It's because of them. It's the injustice in the world. Why? Well, because if there's somebody to blame, then you're not the culprit. And if there's somebody to blame and somebody is causing this to happen to you, then poor little you, right? And people are supposed to say, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened to you. You're in this position, but the reality of it, the reality of this card, the center of this question, which is perfectly symbolized by this card, is that no, it's actually not like that. You want it to be somebody else. You want to have somebody to blame for the challenges at work or for the problems in your relationship or for the health woes that you're experiencing. But it's all a collection of decisions that you have made in the past. There's nothing wrong with those decisions. I mean, those were your life lessons. Every single decision is setting you on a course to learn something. But instead of seeing them as lessons, we accumulate them as the strings. You see how she's tied in all of the strings? Let me see if this is going to focus. But then look at the real her. She's sitting unbound, no mask on her face, no crows. It's only the reflection that she chooses to see that's holding her back. And this is exactly who you became after you wanted the reward. You thought that you were bound by something. You thought that you needed to perform. But what's the challenge? What is the challenge of the Hangman asking of you? And remember, another major arcana card. Judgment, the Magician, the Hangman, Death. We have the High Priestess here. All of these cards basically signify the fact that this is a very important subject for you watching this. Now back to the Hangman. The Hangman basically says, and I've been using this word basically so many times in this little video, so try to avoid that. The Hangman says that you need to take a pause. That's how it's usually interpreted. But in this particular case, what it asks you to say is, look, she's hanging in reverse. She's looking at the world differently, upside down, literally. Okay, so if this is the challenge, what is it asking of this card? Turn it upside down. Look at yourself the way you truly are. The fact that you're not bound, the fact that you don't owe anything to anyone. This life has been designed by you, for you, when you were just consciousness setting out into this world. And the Hangman reminds you is that the challenge is to remember not to live by the societal norms as they are imposed on you today. Those are phony, and they have been created by people who were not able to see the world for what it truly is, upside down. Now let's take a look at what happened in the past. Remember I told you about the soul's journey? So you have Judgment and the Magician together. Judgment is the third card of change. Transformational change. The first card was Death, and we'll talk about this very soon. The second card is the Tower, and then Judgment. Judgment is the soul transformation. And if you look here, so at your previous life, you died, you went back up to the source, your soul reviewed all of the challenges and lessons that it learned or did not learn in your past lifetime, and with all of its power, it came back. Now, I know I said think about September of 2026, but as I'm looking at these cards, this has nothing to do with the dates on the calendar. This is just a state of everyone's affairs. So your soul was reborn and came back with all of its power, ready to do whatever it needed to get to the next level. Get to the level where it can come back, come closer to the source. There's a video I'm going to put out which explains how our universe, actually no, it's beyond our universe, how the concept of life works. So that's, if you want it, check out my channel and I'm going to link it there. But you came here as a magician. That's the point I'm trying to make. And if you think about what's on your mind is creativity, fire, spark, desire to achieve, create something. What do you want to create? You want to create a life, and you want to create meaning. This is what you lack today. This is why you're watching this video. This is why you realize that you're playing somebody else's game and you're not being you. And yet, the consciousness, your soul, chi, depending on where you come from, you can call it whatever you want. The actual you that is connected to everything else in this world still has that spark, still has that desire for expansion, for something bigger. And it does not mean that you need to make all of the money in the world. It does not mean that you have to be famous so that every human being on the planet recognizes you. Grandeur and those big items have no meaning and no relevance to this spark. In fact, you may be here on this planet just that so you can live 47 years of your life, then meet one person for a span of 2 hours and give them advice. That's it. Maybe you told them 2 sentences and you thought those sentences were something that you've repeated multiple times before. You treat them as cliche. But for that person, that message at that time was the most important thing of their lives. And guess what? You were the one to deliver it. That's that spark. Now, on the subconscious mind, it's a bit of a, it's not even regret. It's that little tingling fear inside of you that maybe this is not how you wanted it to be. And these two things, they're not contradictory. They're exactly the same. That loss, that disappointment is what drove that question in the first place. That disappointment inside your head, inside your soul, inside your heart is what's telling you that there's something more out there. There's way more to be learned. And that 5 of Cups is the driving force. It's a small one. I mean, what? 5 within any of the minor arcana decks, it's right in the middle. It's the pivotal point where something changes. 5 of Swords, well, there might have been a lie told, or something happened that was not exactly perfect. 5 of Wands, that's the first altercation that you have either with yourself or somebody close. 5 of Pentacles, feeling left out, less than, not completely enough. And 5 of Cups is having that feeling that something is not correct. And what you're looking for, what's not correct, is you beginning to understand that there's a spark that came to you when you came over, and what's going to happen in the future is the very reason why you're here. The very reason why I asked you this question is, who were you? In order to find that out, the good old card, my favorite card in the deck, I'm a Scorpio, so no surprise, is Death. Ta-da! And remember, I told you death with the first transformation card? Yeah, and the reason is that when you start asking questions like the ones that you've asked here and the one you're trying to get an answer to, is you're realizing that the way things were in the past cannot continue in the future. And when that happens, the only way to make that work is, first, you're going to push back. You're going to try to avoid making change at all costs. Some people like change. Some people fear change like it's the worst thing on the planet. But in general, we all are uncomfortable with change. Death comes in and says, change is exactly what's going to happen for you to advance anywhere with anything and actually learn about yourself. And death is not gentle. It says, look, old stuff has to go. It has to. In order for you to change your perspective, to see who you really are, you've already taken up so much room inside with all of the things that this society has asked you to believe in, with all of the things that you've encountered in relationships. They need to change. They need to go away. And you need to look inside of you, inside of who you are, because up until the point in time that you find out who you are and begin to trust in yourself, you can't be your best, and you can't give your best even to those ones that you love. And you know why you deserve to do that and why you have to be brave. By the way, if you're feeling fear, I congratulate you. Fear is like a lighthouse. Fear is an indication that you're on the right path. Fear is showing you that that is the direction that you need to go into. The only way out of fear is through fear. And you deserve this, because the way you feel is a sense of abundance and happiness. And it's interesting, the way the Nine of Cups is drawn in this particular deck is she's floating beneath the water with a chest of gold open. So this is everything. This is happiness because it's feeling. This is material wealth. It's a sensation of being content. Content beyond words. And around you, it's very interesting, because the one thing that we choose to look at society is we are usually fighting the world. There's a lot of things that's being said, like I am fighting the world or the world is against me. Actually, it's not. The world always presents opportunity. It presents you with a sense of, you know what, there's something out there to be found. And this is what you're feeling. So you have a sense of happiness, and that happiness manifests itself in the world that can give you anything. And most importantly, it gives you feeling. You know why feeling is important? Is because that is the manifestation of how you go through life and how you learn. Your soul feels first. And yet our society teaches us that we need to think first. Thoughts are different than what society... sorry, let me pause for a second. Technically, thoughts are coming from the source. And if you're hearing your thoughts, you're talking to the higher environments where your soul will actually return to, which is great. But the way we perceive thoughts in our society is different. You know this, I know this. Thoughts are usually a product of the mind. That's how we're being taught. And if product of the mind is our thoughts, then we have a slight problem, because the mind is only fixated on the material, on the survival, and all of our ego thoughts come from the mind. So what I'm trying to say is, in this particular spread, you have 1, 2, 3. You have 3 cups, and you have 1 wand, 2 wands, and we have 1 pentacle, and actually only 1 sword right now. And the rest are major arcana. So no, this is far from being trivial. You're great. Environment around you is great. Now, what are you hoping and fearing for? Now, you're hoping for some... you actually were hoping for a revelation. You were hoping that I would be straight up with you and say, hey, you know what? The person you were before you started to pretend, before you started to please others, was this magical creature. I'm actually going to take a pause, because that's exactly who you were. And you were expecting that. You were expecting that to be true. The one challenge that is coming in the way of that is that you still believe that you need to be making a choice whether you want to accept that or not. It's a difficult one, and I'm not going to be sitting here and trying to convince you of one way or the other. Eventually, that is the path, and this is where everything leads to. It leads to the point where you decide that, you know what the high priestess is saying and what's behind the veil is actually true. What I've been led to believe and what other people are talking to me about, and most people are talking about, that is false. You can do anything that you want. You are deserving to be who you are, and you certainly don't have to apologize or live by the standards that other people impose on you. That's not being selfish, not at all. You are just trying to be you. And all of us are absolutely phenomenal in the sense of who we can be. The amount of love that we need to find for ourselves first is the biggest discovery that we should be able to afford us. And where this whole road leads is this Three of Pentacles. And the Three of Pentacles is an interesting card because I when it fell, I was perplexed. I was like, really? All of the drama, all of the revelations over here, all of the transformational cards, and we end up with the Three of Pentacles? But any journey begins somewhere, and Three of Pentacles is a very, very young card in the Pentacles suit. And you have three people trying to put something together. So think of yourself that way. If you want to change the way you feel about yourself, then find people who agree with you. And not because you need their approval, because you certainly don't, but because they need your help as much as you need theirs. Just to look at each other and say, oh my gosh, you also found the answer? And they would be, yeah, I did. So be kinder to yourself, because you're setting off on a path that's very, very interesting, very, very important, and will lead you to a greater happiness and a peace of mind inside. Now, here's what I wanted to do. Let's go back to that bottom of the deck. The bottom of the deck is another Major Arcana card, Wands, Major Arcana, Major Arcana. I'm convinced that this is a very important question. And now that we've talked through all of this, you can go back and see how I read this bottom deck before. Here's how you can read it now, is that you're standing on the edge of changing. And it takes a lot of guts, and it takes a lot of what other people would call crazy in order to step over the ledge. And you have no clue where you're going to land. And that's perfectly fine, because you're going to be looking at the future that you are drawing for yourself. And you are going to take that piece and dive and hang within the moon, which only lights up a portion of the picture. And you will be able to choose and bring together the dog and the wolf that are howling in that moon, because all of the, what people call bad, what people call good, all of those sides, they're part of you. They're part of this life, and that's fine. And you know what happens when you bring two of those things together? Well, you have strength. You have strength to carry on. Your heart is full, and you're able to face all of the challenges that you need to go through. It doesn't mean that the challenges are going to be avoided. No. That's part of this life, for you, for me, for everyone. It's just, it's going to be an extra level of strength that you're going to be welcoming those challenges, because you'll finally remember you built those challenges by yourself, for yourself, and for the betterment of your soul. So, who were you before you figured out what you needed to do to get rewarded? You were an incredible soul. And I'm here to tell you that you're on the verge of finding your way back to that state. So congratulations. I'll see you again next time. If you like this video, please subscribe, please follow. It really helps this channel grow. And it does help this challenge grow too, because this challenge is, a lot of people are coming to it. Cheers. I'll see you again soon.